What up, Moonwives? It's me, your boy Shane, coming to you today with a special request from a viewer. I feel so special saying that. From time to time, I'll throw it out either on my Twitter or at the end of these videos, and I'll say, if there's anything you guys want to see, if there's anything you want to ask me, if there's any specific content you want me to make a video about, just drop me a comment. And somebody really cool and awesome actually messaged me and asked if I would do a video about me. Just a little bit more personally. And his name is Alex. He's from Brooklyn, New York. And he's an actor and a tarot reader, and he should drop all of his information in the comments, all his websites and links, and because, promote your fantastic, witchy and magical brethren, right? But Alex had asked me, what brought you to Gardnerian Craft specifically, and what is your relationship with labels, and how do you identify? Good questions. So I thought I would take a few minutes out, and for anyone who doesn't already know, how I landed in a Gardnerian coven, and labels and pronouns and all sorts of things. As for what brought me to Gardnerian Craft specifically, I was a weird kid. I was always interested in absolutely anything magical, occult, esoteric, and I mean anything. Like, as a child, I did not discriminate. I had a big notebook where I would, take notes and collect newspaper clippings, anything from, magic and crystals and meditation to, UFO sightings and Bigfoot and the Salem witch trials and, oh God, just about anything. And, I would go to the library, 8, 9, 10 years old and, look all this stuff up and make notes in a notebook. Like I said, I was a weird kid. When I was about 10 or 11, I was introduced to a series of books called The Secret Circle by L.J. Smith. The books, not the terrible TV series produced by I think it was on the CW network many years ago. That was trash. I'm still not over it, because I loved those books. Those were my introduction into, witchcraft and Wicca, and I'm not proud of that, but it's fine. And, you got to realize, I've been casting and directing that movie in my mind since I was about 10 years old. And then they made this TV show out of it, and it was just absolutely awful. About 5 minutes in, it deviated wildly from the books, and I never got over it. As you can see. But after that, I think I was about 12 when The Craft came out, and I went to see that in the theater, and, it was a whole bunch of things during my formative years when I was an impressionable youth that just kind of opened my eyes to this world of, magic and power and mystery, and I wanted in. So, I just started going to the library. I started dabbling as kids do, 13, 14, 15, not taking anything terribly seriously as 15-year-olds are wont to do. And started getting more serious about it around the age of 18, 19, instead of just doing spells and, feeling witchy, actually started to delve into, goddess religions and, I guess the more religious or more spiritual side of it. And I will remember this for the rest of my life. I remember in college telling someone that I was Wiccan, someone in my theater troupe, and she just had the greatest reaction of all time. She said, she was like, wait, for real? Serious? Still? And I'm like, yeah, what do you mean? She's like, well, everyone's Wiccan for 2 weeks in the 8th grade. I screamed, because that is just about the best quote I've ever heard in my life. Everyone is Wiccan for about 2 weeks in the 8th grade. It's so fucking true. But yeah, it stuck with me. And like I said, I dabbled here, I dabbled there. I started out where everyone starts out with the classics, right? I hit the Cunningham and the Starhawk and all that sort of stuff. and just kind of glommed a bunch of stuff together. And I was very fortunate in college. I had some great friends who were also sort of kind of semi-interested, and we had I guess you would call it a coven, right? Like the 4 of us, 5 of us sometimes, or 6 of us would meet, membership wavered a little bit, and we would do the 8 Sabbats or full moons or whatever. And it was freaking awesome. But it was a little bit all over the place. Like, I mean, when I say eclectic, I mean like, we would borrow this technique from Zen Buddhism and that technique from Native American shamanism, and then we'd have kind of like a circle casting and elements and whatnot, kind of loosely based in British traditional Wicca. And then we'd have like Star Trek figurines for our goddess and god images on the altar, like eclectic. All the best and all the worst that comes to mind when you say, solitary eclectic Wiccan, except for, like I said, there was about 4 to 6 of us at any given point in time. We graduated and, kind of all went our separate ways, and they were starting to lose interest. And I floundered for a few years, doing some solitary stuff and then taking a break. And then there was probably like a crisis of faith in there somewhere. And, no matter what happened, I always came back to witchcraft and magic and Wicca. And at some point, a couple years ago, I decided I wanted to get serious. And by get serious, I don't mean like, oh, I must study some ancient lineage, whatever. But I mean, I wanted something with a little bit of discipline. And what led me to Gardnerian Craft, or actually, I was just looking for something British traditional-ish, right? I could have gone Gardnerian, I could have gone Alexandrian, but I wanted a system where I knew that everyone who came before me kind of went through the same training that I was going to go through. Little did I know them. And obviously I know now that, yes, there is a core and there's commonalities in branches of Gardnerian Wicca and different covens, that there's a lot of local variances too, but that's neither here nor there. But at the time I was thinking, yeah, I want training. I've learned a lot from books. I've learned a lot on my own. I learned a lot from my own experiences and my own experiments and practice. But I want formal training. I want someone to instruct me and to guide me and to kind of show me a path. I want someone to kind of validate that I'm doing it right. I want someone to, when I have an experience meditating or in dream work or astral projection, I want someone to, older and wiser and with experience to bounce that off of. Like I said, I want to know. It's a bad analogy, but when you join a sorority or a fraternity, even as you're going through the hazing, that every single person in that sorority or fraternity has been through that exact same process. I wanted to go through a training and a process and an initiation and, a transformation and whatever that other people had gone through before me. And I wanted to have that commonality with them. And like I said, I wanted to take a back seat and let someone else be the leader for a while, because I'm kind of used to leadership roles. I've worked in a lot of management positions, and I just kind of naturally, not to pat myself on the back, but I just kind of naturally fall into that role. So I wanted to be in a place where like someone was guiding me for a change. I thought that was a really valuable experience for me to be able to have. So I became interested in a in a stricter, more hierarchical, more, just something, structure. And structure is a great word. Because I went to a Pagan Expo that was held at the Gay Center in New York City. And this would have been in the fall of 2011. And they had groups and covens and representatives there from all different traditions, all different kinds of groups and covens all over New York City and beyond. And like I said, I was looking for something, Gardnerian or Alexandrian or some other kind of British traditional-ish flavor. And there was a Gardnerian coven from Queens, which is where I live, who had set up a table. And the first thing I noticed is they had a sign out that said, we are non-racist, non-sexist, non-homophobic, and we expect our students to be also. And I was pretty blown away by that because Gardnerian tradition has kind of gotten a bad rap a few decades ago for kind of being homophobic and being exclusionary and being, all sorts of things. To the extent that my own mother, who, knows about my religious proclivities, and she had been trained by different magical groups around New York City in the 70s until my dad made her give it up. But she was always interested in Wicca and witchcraft, and she was pursuing training with a coven for a little while until things kind of went south. She had even told me, she's like, you're gay, the Gardnerians are not going to take you. You're gay, you're a lesbian, you're this, you're that, you're queer, the Gardnerians are not going to accept you. They don't do that. They don't, and I was like, I know that was true in the 80s, 90s. No, it can't be that way. And it's 2011, right? Like, surely we're better than this now. But I was worried. I was apprehensive. But I went to that expo and I'm like, let me keep an open mind. Let me see what I discover. Let me see who I meet. And like I said, that's the first thing I see when I approach that table is that sign. It really put my mind at ease. So then I start chatting with two of the coven members. It was not the high priest and high priestess, as it turns out. It was just two members of the coven holding down the table, hanging out. And they said, why are you interested in Gardnerian Wicca? And I said, I remember I said, I'm looking for something more disciplined than what I'm currently doing. And the woman said to me, we are not disciplinarians. What we have is structure. And I loved that. I was like, yes, there it is. Right. Yes. Structure. I'm not content to just kind of float along and do this one month and do that another month and, do a Greek, a Hellenistic ritual for this Sabbath and do a Norse ritual for that full moon. Like I wanted something with structure. So we exchanged contact information, a couple emails went back and forth. About a month later, I interviewed with the high priest and high priestess at a Colombian restaurant, had some really good chicken and really good tamales or something that night, but I digress. About a month later, I went to an open Yule party and ritual all in one evening. And socialized a little bit more and got to know some different people. And then a couple weeks later, got an invitation to come and study. So that would have been January 2012. And then I was initiated in March 2013. And so on and so forth. And, a couple of years pass in between the degrees and whatnot. And now I have a coven of my own. So that is, in a nutshell, what brought me to Gardnerian Craft specifically. And, I want to be clear in saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with Eclectic Wicca. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing your own thing from month to month to month. It was just, I had reached a point in my development or in my seeking or searching or whatever you'd like to call it, where that was no longer satisfying to me. For people who find that satisfying and want to be on that kind of, perpetual learning and seeking and touching on different things for the rest of their life, right on, more power to you. So like I said, I'm not here to present, Gardnerian Craft or any kind of British traditional, Gardnerian, Alexandrian, whatever, Corellian, Blue Star, I don't even know, all the different kind of traditions and offshoots. I'm not here to promote any of those as better than anything else. It was just a better fit for me. So that's question number one. That's what brought me to Gardnerian Craft. As for my relationship to labels, Alex, I'm not sure if you mean magical labels or other, so I'm going to answer them all. First, in general, I have a love-hate relationship with labels, right? Like, I like the idea of, oh, labels are for jars of mayonnaise, not for people. That's a nice sentiment. But the reality is, labels are useful. Labels are real handy. But they're also inaccurate, right? Like a label can't ever, almost never tells you the full story. So I use labels for expediency, but, most of us are a lot more complex than a 1 or 2 word phrase, right? So, in terms of magically, yeah, I say I'm a Gardnerian. I say it proudly. I can wear a lot of labels, right? Magically, I can say, oh, I'm a 3rd degree, or I'm a high priestess. I've called myself a witch, a Wiccan, a pagan. Not exactly interchangeably. Sometimes it depends on the context, or it depends on the audience. If I'm among people that I'm not super close to, like coworkers or, work colleagues, I might just say, me. Or what are you doing this weekend? And I might say, I'm running off to the woods to go camping with a bunch of, hippie friends, like the big pagan that I am. Ha ha ha, I'm going to go hug some trees. And I may not delve into specifics. So, like I said, I kind of use all of those labels in equal measure. In terms of other labels, I'm using queer more often these days. I do still use the word lesbian, but that's a perfect example of what I mean about labels are expedient, but they're not always accurate. So, what other labels? I could talk about this all day. I am assigned female at birth, but I don't really identify with my assigned gender at birth. I'm recently, within the last year, discovered the term non-binary, and I love that. It finally feels close to what my gendered experience is, or lack of experience. And I feel I have another friend who just absolutely summed it up amazingly one time about a year ago. They said, I consider myself agender with occasional gender flare-ups. And I love that so much. Maggie, if you're watching, you're my hero. But, yeah. So I use non-binary kind of as an umbrella term. I use queer as an umbrella term. So here we have the problem, right? If I'm non-binary, if I don't consider myself a woman, how can I be a lesbian? If I am open to dating other non-binary people, or genderqueer, agender, bigender, gender non-conforming, trans, whatever, all types of folks, almost, can I really call myself a lesbian? I most often am attracted to and most often date other assigned female at birth people, most of whom identify as a woman, but not always. So, but that's a lot, right? That's a lot. That's a long sentence. That's a lot to drop on someone. When someone's like, oh, hey, what's your sexual orientation? Or, oh, are you straight or gay? And it's like, how much time do you have? So, meh. Like I said, I've used the term lesbian, but it's not 100% accurate. I've fallen back on queer a lot. I know some people don't like the word; they consider it a slur. I don't. I'm definitely in the camp of taking it back and reclaiming it, and taking it back from people who have used it to oppress us. I say gay with just as much frequency as I do queer or lesbian. Although I proudly kind of attach the label non-binary, I have problems saying that I'm trans. and that's my own shit, right? Like, that's my own hang up, because I'm like, oh, I don't feel trans enough. But I'm not cis. So, not sure where that leaves me. And, you know, I'm still learning more and more about myself every day where that's concerned. And, by the way, today, March 31st, is the Trans Day of Visibility. So, hi, see me. Like I said, it's uncomfortable using the word trans to refer to myself because imposter syndrome. Even though I've had plenty of trans people say, no, if you're non-binary, or if you are not cis, you're trans, right? It's that easy. And if another non-binary person was like, yes, I'm trans non-binary, I'd be like, cool, I'd accept it in a heartbeat. It's just, for me, it feels, I don't know, I struggle with it. Still working that out. So yeah, those are my labels. And in terms of my name and pronouns, you know, you can call me Shane, you can call me Shannon, which is my legal name. Both are fine. I probably have a preference for Shane, just because it's a little more gender neutral, and just because I hear Shannon so much at work and in my family that it'd be nice to balance it out. As for pronouns, you can use any pronouns for me, because I've never found a set that's right. So until then, there are no pronouns that are wrong. I'll answer to she, her. I'll answer to he, him. I'll answer to they, them. I understand that people are still getting used to singular they, and they find it a little clunky, a little awkward in speech, and that's cool. You know, so I will answer to any pronouns. I mean, pronouns are they're when you're talking about someone in the third person. Like, if you're using pronouns to refer to me, I'm probably not in the room. So I don't care what you call me. You'd be like, that asshole over there. Yeah, that's it. So, I hope that answered all your questions. What brought you to Gardnerian Craft specifically? What is your relationship with labels, and how do you identify? If I didn't answer your questions, if you were like, that is not what I meant at all, you lunatic, or if there's anything else you want to know, Alex, drop a comment, drop a line. Like I said, don't forget to put your contact information if you want to put yourself out there for your acting or a tarot reading. Anyone else listening and watching, if there's anything else you want to know, I'm an open book. I'll tell you. I have no secrets. Just the oathbound ones. Yeah, and again, anyone has any ideas for content, for videos, if there's anything you'd like to see, let me know. Hit like, share, subscribe. That still gives me a thrill to say that. Like a real interwebs personality. Okay, guys, until next time, be well, take care of each other, stay indoors, wash your hands, etc., etc., etc. As I record this, we're still in the middle of the coronavirus outbreak. It's getting bad out there, so, you know, please just use good common sense, and everyone stay safe. And I cannot wait until those statements really date this video. You know, I can't wait till this is all in the past, and, you know, and everyone's like, oh God, coronavirus, remember that? It was ages ago. I can't wait for that day, so be well, everyone.